Hi everyone, I'm Keishara Chisholm and welcome back to my channel, Keishara Creates. To all my new subscribers, I want to say thank you so much. I truly appreciate your support and encouragement. It definitely helps to keep me motivated to continue to keep going. And with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started today. So I wanted to do something today that was just a little bit more fun and not as structured or traditional. So instead of doing something, as structured or a little bit more complex like a still life, we're going to do something just kind of fun today. So with the warmer weather approaching, or at least with me focusing on hoping for warmer weather, I wanted to kind of do something that was kind of spring, summer inspired. So kind of random, but I thought about just doing something that would be fun and simple and would probably look good in the kitchen and things of that nature. I want to do art that's not just specific to one area or one style. So I thought, let's do some oranges today. So instead of like placing them on a tabletop or anything like that, I'm just going to do a background. I'm still going to add a little bit of texture and complexity in the color of the background, but and then I'm going to place the oranges on top, just kind of scatter, just a little bit of fun. So blue complements orange very well. However, for this, I think I want to do more of a lavender tone with maybe some hints of blue. So with that being said, let me go ahead and get situated to start with the background. So since I want to do a lavender or a lighter purple tone, sorry y'all, got to get my brush situated. But since I want to do a lavender or a lighter tone, I am going to start with just some white paint and placing some white paint just on the canvas. And as you can see, I do have some touches of blue in there, but that's fine because it takes blue to make lavender. So we're just gonna go ahead and start putting some paint onto the canvas. And like I always say, don't forget to neglect all the sides and corners of your canvas too, because you want those color tones to be accurate with the rest of your background shade. And it's just easier to go ahead and get it done with in the beginning. You can go back and touch it up at the end, but I just like to try to remind myself to go ahead and do it. I don't have to worry about it. So as you can see, just a little bit of blue and white onto the canvas right now. And I didn't add a lot of water to this brush because I want this to be kind of dry, because I want to be able to just paint quickly over top of it. Acrylic paint dries fairly quickly. So even if you do have your brush a little bit more saturated with water, it still dries fairly fast, where you could just go ahead and start doing your next coat over top of it. And if you did want to just go ahead and speed up the process, if your brush was a little bit more saturated, one trick that I always use is just to use a handheld blow dryer and allow that to dry off that coat very quickly, so you can just continue to go ahead and paint over top of it. All right, so I am going to add just a touch of water on my brush, and I'm going to get some violet, but I'm going to mix it with the aquamarine, because like I said, I do want this more on a blue scale. So I'm just going to add some touches of that violet and aquamarine that I mixed together to start adding some pops of purple to this background. And see, I didn't start off with too much water because I'm going to utilize the water to help and blend all these colors together. Like I said, don't forget the tops, the sides, and the bottoms too, so it all blends fairly well together. And see, I'm kind of just doing strokes up and down. You can do left and right as well, whatever you feel more comfortable with, and just helping to spread the paint out so we can start the process of blending it together. I'm getting the tops and the sides too. I'm gonna add some more touches of white in there because I do want this fairly light. I'm just gonna kind of blend it in, the same thing that I've been doing. Nothing's really changed. Make sure you get some of that on the sides and on the top as well. And I always want to remind that these color schemes are always just a reference. You can switch and mix up the colors to suit your liking if you would like to. You can always do something a little bit more abstract too. So like, for example, we're painting oranges today, but if you wanted to, you didn't have to paint them orange. You could paint them purple or blue or neon color or whatever you wanted to. That's the wonderful thing about art. You're free to use your own creativity and your own interpretation or expression any way you would like to. At least that's what I like about it. I get creative freedom to do what I want to do, and I like that. All right, so let me just get a little bit of water. I'm going to dilute my brush some, wipe off any excess water because you don't want paint dripping down the canvas. But I'm just gonna saturate my brush some to start spreading out some of that paint. And yeah, I'm starting to like those tones. See, it's fairly light. And if you notice, like down at the bottom, I kind of tend to go to the edge and push the brush upward, especially since my easel kind of tight right here. Then I can just continue to do my longer strokes upwards. Don't forget the sides and the top. Even if you're painting your background white or anything like that, you still want to use a base coat. You never just want to leave the canvas just bare. And give the sides and the top just as much love as you give the whole rest of the painting too. You'll be thankful at the end that it's nice and fully saturated and you don't have to go back and touch up. All right, I'm going to step on this side just to make sure that this side is painted nicely as well. And see, I'm painting this side in upward strokes as well. I'm going to do this quickly so you guys can see the rest of what all I got going on. All right, so now we got that out the way. I'm going to continue to blend in the rest of this background, and then we can get started with the silhouette and the shapes for our oranges. And see, I'm kind of just pushing around the paint that's already on the canvas, spreading it out. And see, I did not put a whole bunch of water on this canvas, so as you can see, it's taking a little bit more effort to spread the paint out, but that's fine because then we won't have to do as much work later. We can just go ahead and start to paint over top of this because it will be drier than if we just use mostly water. I'm starting to like that color variation. I don't usually paint with lavenders and purples as often, so I'm trying to step out of my comfort zone because I know I use a lot of grays and I use a lot of blues in the background, and lately I've been using a lot of green. So my first instinct when I thought of this painting was to do green in the background, and then I was like, no, I've done green too many times in the last week or so, so I needed to switch it up. And you see at the tops, I'm kind of doing the same thing that I did at the very bottom, where I'm kind of doing little strokes and then going back into the middle and blending up and down into that. and kind of just play around with it. Of course, you want to blend it out until all the canvas is covered and you don't see little pieces of the canvas poking through your paint. You want your background to be fully saturated with paint. No spots that aren't covered, that don't have any paint on them. Now, today's painting is going to be just a lot of fun. It's not going to be as technical or too realistic. We kind of just want to make sure it looks like the subject matter, which are oranges. So, and this is a very simple painting or subject to paint. I thought this would be a lot of fun because basically if you can make circles and ovals and triangles, you will be able to recreate this painting. And my goal for this channel in particular is to show everyone just how simple and easy it is to actually create beautiful pieces of art just by learning a little bit of technique and some tips and some tricks, and just being able to, or just being motivated to try something different and have a little bit of fun. See, nothing fancy, still blending. And right here, I think I might have too much blue, so I'll probably go back with some more white and blend that out with a little bit more white and some of that purple tone that I used too. Trying to make sure all my strokes are consistent. This part takes time, but it is important. Trust me. I typically always do the background prior to doing my main subject or the actual image for the painting. Just that way, the layering of the colors, it does not tend to take as many layers. With acrylics and mostly any type of painting or any art medium, it's all about layers. So you do want a base coat. If not, you'd have to just do more and more colors and then have to go around and paint the background around everything on top of that. Go ahead and just get the background done in the first place, unless you're doing something that's a little bit more particular, that you want extremely realistic, like a portrait or something along those lines. All right, and I don't think I'm gonna be too picky or fussy because, like I said, we are going to paint over top of all of this. We just mainly want to have a good background or a good base coat. I do want to add some more touches of violet to this, just to give it more of a lavender tone or feel, or however you want to describe that. Definitely going to add some right here. I think that's a little too blue right there. Nothing fancy. I'm just putting some of the purple where I want some more of the purple tones to go. Gonna add a little bit more white and blend that area out because I thought that blue was a little too heavy right there. I still wanted to have a lavender or purple feel to it. And see, and you see, this part is already dry. That's what I love about acrylic paint. It dries pretty fast. It makes it easier to just go ahead and get the painting started. All right, perfect. So just like with the background where we started with the base coat, we are going to pretty much do that same, sorry, you guys can't see me. We're going to pretty much do that same technique when it comes to making the oranges as well. So I'm going to start to sketch out the oranges in a really light, I was going to say yellow, but I think I'll just do orange just so it will stand out a little bit more. So you guys can hopefully see it a little bit better. Let me grab my paint. So I'm going to use some yellow and of course some red. It takes yellow and red to make orange, and some white. I want more yellow than red because I want this pretty bright. We're basically just going to use this color to sketch it out. So I'm not trying to make this color too identical to an actual orange. I just want a nice orange color so I can start to sketch it out. And I believe you guys are going to be so surprised at how fairly easy this is going to be to create. So I'm just using a round brush. Just a round brush because it's got a round tip to it. It's not a straight line. And I'm kind of diluting the paint just a little bit. So I want it to have like an ink texture or consistency to it. That way it just spreads a little bit easier. All right. So let's get started with the placement of where we're going to put these. So I'm going to start at the top. You guys should probably know by now, I like to paint on the larger scale, especially when I'm teaching, because it just helps people to see the techniques and the dimension and everything better. I feel like it helps them to comprehend the techniques better. So I'm going to start with just a large oval. See, anybody can do that. And put another little oval inside of it, and then a circle inside of that. Then I'm going to do a U shape coming off the side of it. And inside that little oval, I'm going to do a line straight across. And then I'm just going to add little lines to differentiate the parts of the orange. All right. I think I want to do half of one right here as well. Do my little one for the middle. My two lines, and then break those lines into half. There we go. Make sure you carry it up to the top and on the sides of your canvas as well. It just makes it look more professional. All right, and this one, I'm going to do an arch around it as well. Now, the rest of them I don't think are going to make cut in half. I think I'm just going to do slices for those. So I'm going to start kind of where this one touches, and I'm not even making them too precise of an oval or a circle or anything like that. Do another ring around the inside of that. All right, and an oval in here. Start our line to make it into 4 sections, and then split those sections in half. And I will show you how this will all start to come together. Now, I'm gonna add a small one peeking out right here. Nothing new, just that same technique. All right, so I'm gonna do one coming off of here too. And see, I'm not being too picky or too fussy. I don't have a entire composition laid out in my mind. I'm just kind of adding where I feel like one could go, or where a little bit more attention needs to be. And mimic that same technique for each little orange. Do your oval inside of that initial one, make a center, and then start your little pieces off from the center. Put it into 4 sections, split it up. But you want them all to be at like an angle though when you do your separations inside your orange. All right. I think I might just add maybe 1 or 2 more. Since I started all the way at the top, I want to end all the way at the bottom too, because I want the composition to be proportional. I just think that will look better. So I'm going to do another little slice one right here. One that's mostly covered up. I'm going to start the middle of that one right here. Then I'm going to mimic that same technique of splitting it up in the middle. I think I want to do another larger one here, and then I think I might do a little one right there. Make sure you do your ring on the inside of it. A little oval, and then start to split it up into sections. Then see, this is fairly easy. And I'm just going to do a large, kind of large one right here, but one that's still behind. Do my circle. Start to section it off. Same technique. All right. I think I like that. I don't think it has to necessarily go all the way to the bottom. I think I'm kind of liking that. All right. So anyone that's ever ate an orange or any kind of citrus fruit or anything like that, you know, right? The ring right around it is really light. So I'm going to make what almost is going to look like a really pale yellow, but it's going to have a little touch of red into it to just make it a really light orange color. So I'm going to take the color that I had and add more yellow and white to it. And I'm going to use the same paintbrush that I've been using. And see, this color looks more yellow than orange, but it does have an orange tint to it. So I'm just going to start filling in that ring, that initial ring that we made with this light tone. See, that's already starting to change the image a good amount. That already helps it to look more like oranges. We're just going to do that for all of them. We're just coloring in that ring to where an orange would naturally be lighter for when you slice it. And it's okay if you go over any of these original outlines because we're going to touch all those up anyway. It's all about layering, so we're going to continue to add more layers to this as well. These orange was mainly just to outline or to make the composition or the drawing for our painting. So in here also, there we go. Only a few more, then we can start something else. Promise, promise. All right, one more after this one. Just coloring in. All right. And inside the little circles, I'm kind of just going to paint half of it with that lighter orange or yellow tone. Just half of that little circle with that lighter tone. All right. Perfect. All right, all right. So we are going to get started with the inside shade of the orange, and then we're going to go and add more definition to that and add more color to the outsides or the rest of the silhouette of the oranges, especially the larger ones. All right. So for the inside of the orange, it is a much brighter orange, or darker, deeper, however you want to describe it. So for this orange, I'm going to start with a base that has more red to it. And I'm not trying to make it a perfect shade as of right now. I'm just making a nice base coat so we can go back and add more color and texture to it. All right. All right, so now I'm ready. Just inside of them, I'm just gonna plop in that darker orange. And I'm definitely going to go over this with some deeper oranges and reds to add more definition. So like I'm saying right now, we're just doing our base coat, so you kind of just want to paint it in. You don't have to be too particular. If you go over any of those initial lines, that's fine. We're going to touch all those up anyway. All right, so we're painting. We're just painting in inside of each one of those little triangles that we made for our oranges. All right, up in here, make sure you give the top of the canvas some love too, if your oranges go off to the top or the sides. All right, and we're just going to do that same thing for the rest of them. Just going to start filling it in with that orange, that base tone or base coat for the inside of our orange. Nothing too fancy. You don't have to be too particular. Like I said, it's okay if you go over the line a little bit. We're just getting a nice base coat down. And you want your paint to be where you can spread it onto the canvas, but you don't want it too thick and you don't want it too thin either. If at any time your paint is running down or dripping down, you have water dripping down your canvas, then you need to dry your brush off. It's usually a good idea that you dry your brush off after you take it out the water before you even put it into your paint, and then add more water if you need to spread out the paint thinner or easier. And I think I'm actually going to do that. And see, I'm kind of just dipping into the water and spreading it out into the paint and diluting the paint instead of just taking water and putting it right onto the canvas. So we're just filling it in. Filling each one of those little slices in. And see how each one of these little steps is already just changing the whole composition of this, making it look even more and more realistic without being too technical. All right, so we'll keep doing all the little triangles for our oranges. Just paint them all in with the base coat. So just keep painting in with the base coat for each one of these little slices or triangles, or however you want to identify it for your own self. Nothing complicated. Just painting in triangles. Alright, and since I believe you guys pretty much have this technique, I'm going to stop doing as much talking and just go ahead and getting these painted in so we can go ahead with the next step and technique. And I do like the background tone. It's a little bit more blue than purple, but I like it. I think it's going to help the oranges stand out because blues complement orange anyway. Purple takes blue to make purple, so it naturally looks well with orange as well. So I'm just painting them in. I want to get a nice solid coat of that base coat down, so I'm making sure I have a nice thick layer in each one of the little triangles. Still doing the same thing, painting in the triangles. And see, I love doing this in real time so people can actually see how much time and effort it takes to create all of these wonderful pieces. Because a lot of times, a lot of people, especially people that don't create at all, they really don't realize how much energy and love goes into every little thing that you paint or create. All right. So same thing, nothing's changed. Filling in the triangles. Nothing fancy, just filling them in. And right now we're just getting pretty much the whole composition, getting all the base coats down, and then we can start adding the shadows and the highlights, and then that helps to speed up the process. But this part is so important. And see, if we did not have a base coat underneath this, orange and yellows are very light or transparent colors. We would have had to do a whole bunch of coats of yellow or orange to get this color saturation if we did not paint the background first, which is why I stress painting the backgrounds first unless you're doing something more precise like a portrait or something like that. And still just filling in the triangles. Like, you don't even realize how many little triangles you made until you have to paint them all in. But we're getting there. Still nothing fancy, just add in the color. And y'all, painting is so relaxing. That's one of the things I love about it. Because you kind of just get lost in the painting. Your mind stops wondering about everything else. You just kind of just sit and start to focus on what you're doing right in front of you. Which is one of the beauties about just art in general. If you ever think that your paint gets a little bit too thin, just add a little bit more to your brush. That's all you need to do. for just filling in the triangles. Nothing fancy. All right, just filling it in. All right, we're getting there. Not many more. Now, after I do this part, I'm going to go in with that lighter yellow that we used and start to add some definition. Matter of fact, before I do that, I'll go ahead and paint those tones for both of those orange halves. And then I'll start with the yellow, or that really pale orange for the ring around the oranges. But as of right now, still just filling in with the orange. Each little triangle with that darker orange tone. And see, look how much it looks like orange. We haven't even really done anything or spent that much time. Told you this is going to be fairly simple. Painting is so much fun, and really it is very simple. You learn technique at a time, and then you start to implement them and put them together. And that's all it is. And even me as an artist, I still watch other artists and learn new and more techniques and try different things and try to step out of my comfort zone as well, because that is the fun of painting. Nobody wants to do the same thing all the time, especially if you're a person that likes to continue to learn and looking for something creative. Painting is a good avenue for that. There's always something different that you can learn. There's another artist that you can get inspiration or technique from. Everyone creates art differently. That's the beauty about it. All right, our last set of triangles that we're filling in with the base coat. We're getting there. And if you're doing this at home on your own, it probably wouldn't take you as long as me, because as you can see, I am talking and instructing during this, so that kind of takes some of my focus away as well from just getting it done. Now for the orange halves, I'm going to use the orange that I had to fill in each one of the little triangles for our orange slices. I'm going to add more yellow to that and just make that a brighter orange to fill in both of these halves. So I'm just going to add some yellow to that. Not making it too light, but just lighting it up with some yellow, brightening it up with some yellow. Add just a little bit of water to my brush just to dilute that paint some. All right, and I'm not going to be too picky about these either. I'm just filling it in with that color. That's it. Mix up just a little bit more. There we go. All right, there we go. And see, I'm just roughly putting it down, not making it too precise, just filling in a nice base coat. And I'm already getting pretty happy with this piece. Like I said, it's really not going to take too much time. This is a piece that's just going to be fun and kind of whimsical, free-flowing, not too structured, not too complicated. It's not overly realistic, but it's realistic enough for you to know what it is. All right, so like I said, I'm going to go in with that lighter yellow tone. I'm actually going to make it even lighter and start to add more shape around each one of those little triangles. Because if you look at an orange, it's more rounded at the tips where that lighter color is. So we're going to do that, and I'm actually going to mix, or excuse me, switch to a little bit of a smaller round brush. I love to use round brushes if you guys have not noticed that by now. Why can I never find the brush that I want right when I want it? Jeez. That means I have way too many brushes. There we go. Found it. So I need to mix up some more of that yellow. So I'm going to use mostly white, a little bit of that orange that we just had, and a little bit of yellow to make a really pale or pastel shade. Add just a little bit more yellow to it. I'm just mixing up that color right now, nothing too fancy, making a really light yellow or a really light orange. See, really light. And I'm diluting that. Anything that has white mixed into it is really thick. White paint is very thick and very opaque. So usually with the lighter colors, I do have to dilute them a little bit more. So if it seems like I'm just mixing the paint, that's what I'm doing, and I'm diluting it. All right, so I am basically going to just go right over top of where I did that light yellow. I'm going to do one orange at a time though, instead of filling in each one like I did before. And I am going to round out the sides of each orange. So you want to follow that curve and then pull it up to where it gives more of the appearance of a triangle shape. Don't forget the tops. Just makes it look nice. All right, and I'm going to pull that tone up. I'm going to cover up those lines where I differentiated for each one of the little triangles. Look how much more that looks like an orange slice. Add a little bit right there in the middle too. Basically kind of mimicking what we did when we first sketched the orange slices out. All right, so same thing, start just to cover up that initial yellow, round out each little triangle for each little orange. I like to round them out first and then go back and do the lines inside of it. All right, and I'm just doing the same thing. I don't want to forget about this one up here. Let me go ahead and get it done. Just needed just a little bit more water. All right, yep, there we go. Cover up the yellow first. Not being too picky, like I said, we're just adding layers. And we're gonna arch around that little triangle. Oh, you know what? Did I go back in here and do the little lines? Nope, I did not. Let me do that first so I won't forget. And this little guy right in here, where we initially put that yellow. There we go. All right, back to this one. Start to round out the little triangles. Round them out. And I love the idea of doing fruits and vegetables and pastries, and using things like that for paintings as well, because a lot of people look for art to put in to their kitchens and things of that nature, and it's just fun. It looks good. Why not? Something different. I love flowers, but I don't always want to paint flowers. All right, same thing. Bring those lines up. It does not have to be perfect. It's okay if it touches that orange. Like I said, this painting is not going to be all about being too precise or making it perfect. We just want to make sure at the end of it, it looks like oranges. So let's do this one. And see how fast it's starting to go now? Now we're starting to move. It's moving along now. There we go. Make sure you don't have too much water on your brush. You don't want your paint or water dripping down your canvas. All right. Now I'm going to start arching around the triangles. Arching around. Same technique. Arching around or curving around the little triangles. Do the middle and then give some love to the little lines in between as well. See, look how easy that is. All right. We're going to do that for the rest of them too. Just diluting the paint again, making sure it's nice and fluid, like an ink consistency. All right, we'll do this guy. There we go. Same thing, rounding out each one of the little triangles, curving or arching around them, however you want to interpret that. See what we're doing? And same thing, gonna pull those lines up into the, just cover up those lines. And I'm not covering up all the way, I'm just making sure you can get some of that lighter tone in between all of them, right in the middle where we did that yellow also. All right, and I'm pretty happy with how it's coming along so far. So, same thing with this guy. I'm going to go over these a little bit more. There we go. All right. Just covering up where I put the yellow. Nothing too fancy or too difficult. Then I'm going to go around each one of these little triangles and round out the bottom of it. Just curving around it. All right. Pull some of that lighter tone up too. And don't forget to go over in the middle where you put that little touch of yellow also. We're getting there, y'all. So going around the yellow. Like I said, if you touch any of the orange or anywhere, anything like that, don't worry too much about it because we're going to go back and add more layers of colors, more shadows and highlights to this anyway. So don't have to be too particular about it. Go ahead and do the middle, and then I'm going to start to bring those lighter lines up. There we go. All right, almost there with this. I'm just gonna go ahead with the yellow right there, why not? Cover up the yellow around the rim or the slice of the orange. Curve out each one of those little triangles. There we go. And start to bring the line up for those. All right. Just a little bit more water. Okay. Let's give this one some love. And then round out each one of those little triangles. And bring them up, bring the lines up, kind of follow those lines initially, add some of that in the middle. And let me actually step back from it for a second. All right, I'm getting pretty happy with that. So let's see. I'm gonna start playing around. Actually, first I think I wanna, no, I'm gonna do the shadows and highlights for up here first, or excuse me, some shadows. And then I'm gonna start to go around these with the base coat that I want for each of the orange slices. So we're gonna do a brighter orange around there. But since these are overlapping right here, it would naturally be darker. There would be a shadow right there. So I'm gonna take some red and add it to some of that orange I had. And I'm gonna take a really small amount, see, just a touch of some brown to that to deepen up that orange as well. Add a little bit more red to that. Some yellow. All right. So I'm going to, you see how I kind of just took that darker shade, made a line, and started to bring it out. And this is kind of thick on my brush, so I'm going to dilute that color some with some water and spread that out a little bit easier. And see, I'm spreading the paint out in an arched or curved motion. Do some on that side as well. Over here also, I'm going to start on that side and blend it out with curved motions. Make sure the paint's not too thick. There we go. All right, and in some places where the oranges are overlapping, I'm going to add some of that dark orange as well, where the ones naturally underneath would be. Not being too particular, just wanting to make sure they stand out a little bit more. Right there too. Up in here. Just getting more water to dilute that. Let's see, and it would naturally be a little bit darker right in here too. I'm gonna add more of the shadows down here later after I get the base of all the tones for the orange. I think I might do those shadows last, just because the orange slices are so close together. So we'll go around this just a little bit more. And I'm painting it in curved motions too, since these halves are definitely curved. I'm kind of just playing around with it. All right. So I want to do a really bright orange around here. Not lighter pastel like we did the inside, but a really bright yellow or orange, excuse me. So I'm going to use mainly yellow, a little bit of red, a little bit more red, let's see, yep, I think I like that. And just diluting the paint again. I probably said that 50 times. I guarantee I'll say it multiple times with each tutorial I do. So around the edge of each one of the oranges, I'm going to add that bright orange tone. It's okay if it covers up some of that light yellow that you did. You actually want it to do that, so that's perfectly fine. And we're just going to do that for all of them. We're just painting the outside of each one of the oranges, that really bright orange shade. Dilute my paint just a little bit more. Oh, I don't know why I'm holding my palette like this. I probably should not be, because it's not the most comfortable position, but hey, it is what it is. All right, so let's do this guy first, and then we'll do the ones around it, since it's right smack in the middle. And see how this is even helping to differentiate or help each one of the little slices to stand out even more. That is exactly what we want. I'm just going around. Make sure you get all of them. We're getting there, not many more. All right, almost there, almost there. We'll do up here too. All right, just covering up over here too. Now, this really bright orange that we just used, I'm going to add some of that into the middle of these slices. Add some water to my brush to help that kind of blend into some of those darker shades that we use. And right now I'm just kind of throwing some in the middle. I'm not making it too precise. I just want it to blend just a little bit. Over here, I want this side to be darker, so I'm going to focus more so on this side with that lighter orange, but still blend in a little bit over there. All right, let me step back for a second and look at this. All right. I'm going to add some of that to touch up some of these areas inside of the orange also. Right now I'm kind of just going around those little circles on the opposite end of where I put that really light yellow. And a little bit of some color here too. I'm not covering up any of the lines completely. I'm just adding some more color variation. I'm barely using any of this tone, honestly. See, I'm just adding a little touches of that color here and there where the lines are in the middle and on the sides of each little slice. Do the same one for this. See, there's very little, hardly any paint on this brush. Just a little bit of that tone. All right, let's do these two up here too. Just adding some of that tone in there. All right. Let me step back again and look and see. All right, so I'm going to take a larger round brush and I'm going to take some red to deepen up some of that orange that I already have. So just some red and some orange. I try not to add white into it to lighten it unless you need to, because it will turn it into a pastel tone. And I want this pretty dark, so I want to add a good amount of red to this. Nope, not dark enough. Dilute that some. All right. And I'm kind of just going to kind of color into some of those little triangles. I'm not trying to cover up the whole thing, make it too perfect. I'm just adding more layers of color, because the shadows and the highlights for this piece is what's going to make everything pull together. So see, I'm just adding some of that color to each one. And because there's already some base coat down there, and since I'm not being too particular to fill in each one of the triangles completely, it's going to go fairly quickly. We're just adding more layers of color. All right, just adding some of that darker orange to each one of these. Like I said, not being too perfect, not trying to cover the whole thing. Just adding more color dimension to it. And dilute that some more with some more water. Not too thin, but just thin enough to where it spreads nicely. And just give all of these little triangles some love with this darker orange color. All right, we're getting there to where we can start doing some more things. And that just helps to thicken up that orange. We're adding layers and layers and layers. I'm gonna make sure I didn't miss any. Okay. So with that orange still on my brush, I added a little bit of white and some yellow. And right in here, I'm gonna add some of that light tone. And then I'm going to wet my brush, wipe it off just a little bit because I don't want too much water on it. But I'm going to try to, well, not try, I'm going to start blending that out with some water. Blending it in slightly with some of that tones that we already put down. Blending, blending, blending. There we go. And go back with that darker tone and blending it out this way into the lighter colors. Same on this side, and see we're doing curved motions because these are round, they're not straight, so I'm not doing straight lines. If your brush is really hard to move onto your canvas, add some more water or paint to your brush. And blend this out on the canvas. Here we go. All right, let's see. Add some right in here. You see, I'm kind of just playing around with it, adding some here or there, doing curved lines, blending it in. Add a little bit right here too. All right. Let me step back again. Okay, yeah, I'm liking that. So I'm gonna do some texture or some highlights around these guys too. And I think I'm gonna use that same tone that I was using. I might brighten it up a little bit by adding some more yellow to it. Just to add, and see, I'm not covering anything that I did completely. I'm adding layers to it, so I'm adding little touches of darker and lighter colors here or there to give the appearance of texture and dimension. So see, I'm adding some here, I'm adding some there. Nothing too particular. I'm not covering up anything completely. There we go. Add some here. Add some there. And see how just adding a little bit of color here, a little bit of color there, how it starts to change the whole composition, how it starts to make it look even more and more and more realistic. Up in here, I think I'm just going to plop some yellow in the middle. Lord, I dropped my whole paintbrush. Surprised I didn't do that earlier, but hey, it is what it is. So I'm just going to add some yellow right here and dilute the brush and blend it out. All right, I think I'm going to start doing some highlights with some white tone. And I actually am going to use just the base white. And I'm using a really thin liner brush. I want to make sure that my white is nice and diluted because like I stated earlier, white paint is very opaque or very thick. So you want it nice and diluted, especially when you're going to use a small brush, that it paints really nicely, really smoothly like ink. All right, so let's see. So in certain areas, I'm just gonna add touches of white. Need more water. And I think this would be a great piece for all age groups, all experience levels. It's just something that's gonna look fun, put together, and teach you some technique, some texture, how to blend and layer colors, how to set out certain shapes and things like that. Give this guy in here some love too. All right. And I'm kind of just quickly adding little touches here and there. I'm not being too particular because I'm just adding highlights of this to each one. All right, just still adding little highlights of white here and there, just adding more layers of color to the painting. To give the appearance of shadows and highlights. And see, I'm curving around the slices. I'm not doing any straight lines except for right in here where the lines are, you know, obviously straight, and I'm not covering the whole line either. Adding touches of the white here and there to add highlight. All right, I'm gonna add some white up in here too, just kind of in the middle, and I'm just blending it out. Same right here. Just blending that out. Add some more water on my brush. There we go. Help blend that a little bit smoother. There we go. All right, stepping back again. All right, so I'm gonna do some touches of browns into all of these to add some more highlights, and then I think I'll do my finishing touches with some blacks, and then I think we'll be done. So I'm gonna mix a darker brown and a lighter brown together. I'm gonna add some yellow to it because I don't want it to be too deep. I'm gonna add some yellow and some red to it. See, not too dark, not too light, something that's going to blend in nicely with these oranges that we have. I'm going to use that same liner brush that we were using, making sure I'm getting this color really nice and diluted because I don't want any really dark areas of this color. So, of course, right in here, I'm going to add some of that color and blend it out. Same technique we've been doing. Alright. Adding some of those darker shades here and there. It's all of these color variations just add to depth and gives more definition or realism to your pieces. And see, I'm not following any particular lines perfectly. I'm just adding little touches here and there just to help the image stand out so that they don't all start to blend together. Might add some more of this tone up in here. All right, let me step back again. All right, I'm liking it, so I don't want to keep just adding. So I think I'm going to do actually just some simple areas of black just to kind of finishing off. And black is the same way as white. You want it nice and diluted, really, really, really thin, like an E consistency, because it can be really thick, and you don't want thick gloss of black for any of your shadows. So, sorry, I do not have my camera set up in the area I usually do, and I feel like I'm stepping all in front of it, but hey, it is what it is. We're pretty much done now. All right, so some of them overlap. Matter of fact, I'm going to use an even thinner liner brush. Where's my brushes? There we go. A teeny, 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 tiny brush if you have one. Because I just want really thin areas of black, especially since this is really bright piece. I don't want any just globs of black onto the picture. So I'm going to kind of use that liner brush to kind of help the edges stand out some. And I'm not covering any of the lines completely. I'm just giving that illusion to make them stand out some more. See, like here, I'm gonna add a line, add one there, do one here. Like I said, I'm kind of just playing around with it, nothing in particular. especially where they're overlap. I want to have that stand out, so I'm adding some of those lines there, some of the black there, just so it stands out. They stand out a little bit more. But as I stated, I'm not covering up any of it completely or all the way. And when it comes to white and black, I kind of just like to have some fun with it. Not being too particular or anything like that. Up in here, I think I still want to add some more of that brown as well. That same little brush. Now I'm going to switch back to that other liner brush that I was using. Clean it out good and use some of that brown, because I kind of forgot about these guys up here when I did those touches of brown. There we go. Add some over here. All right. Little touches here and there. Just kind of playing around with it. And like I said, this is going to be kind of fun and whimsical. It's not too accurate or too precise. We just wanted to be pretty. That's it. As long as it looks good, that's all that matters. As long as it resembles oranges, that's all I care about. And see the magic of how adding white and black to the end of your paintings, how it can really pull everything together. It's just kind of cool. That adds so much more contrast to the painting. But black can be overpowering, so you don't want to use too much, which is why I'm using this teeny tiny brush. All right, just playing around with some final touches of the black, just where I feel like it's needed. Dilute that brush just a little bit. There we go. I want that to be a little bit smoother. Add some right here. Add a touch down here. And see, I'm just kind of playing around with where I think it needs to be. Let me step back. All right, add some touches up in here. And down here with these two, and then I think we're good as done. I've learned through experience that once you get satisfied or you like the piece, to leave it alone. All right, so just little touches of black into this one, and this will be our last one. And just kidding, this one needs some love up in here too. Almost done though, I promise. We're getting there. All right, stepping out back, excuse me, one last time. I think I want to add just a little bit of black right there, just right here, and especially onto the side since this one curves and goes onto the side. All right. Step back one last time, just one last time. All right, that's it. I'm done. I'm putting my paint palette down, putting my paint brushes down, and we are going to call this one a day. All right, you guys. So again, thank you so much for joining me. Again, I'm Kishara, and this is my channel, Kishara Creates. I hope you really enjoyed this piece. Please, 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 please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you guys again so much for all your support and encouragement. It really means a lot to me. You can also check out some more of my artwork at my Facebook and my Instagram page. It is listed or linked to my About page and down below. I also am a resident artist here in the Rock Hill, South Carolina area, close to Charlotte, North Carolina. So you can also come and paint with me live. And I do paint parties for adults and children as well. You can either come to the art studio or we can travel to you also. Another thing is all of my original pieces are for purchase, and I am in the process of getting my website and everything situated so that everyone be able to purchase prints and other merchandise featuring my artwork as well. So again, I want to thank you all so very much for joining me today. I look forward to seeing you guys next time, and I hope you continue to create. Bye. Oh.